or it's nice to see familiar, friendly faces. So up to you, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Yes. Hey, so welcome everyone. Make yourself comfortable. I'm starting the recording. No worries, it's going to be on speaker view, so feel free to come and say hi. We would also love to know where you're joining us from in the chat. And there's a lot of people coming in, so we're going to give it a little minute or two before we get to the action part. So record on the cloud. Hey, salut, nice. Hello, Viola. I see a lot of, hello, Quinn. A lot of people I saw in other sessions. Fantastic. Glad to have people going to a lot of the learning sessions. So without further ado, let's start. So, hey, welcome to PowerSkills 2021 Courage Strikes Back, hosted by the Career Advising and Transition Services of McGill School of Continuing Studies. And my name is Nayo Garipi. I'm part of the CATS team. I got also here my colleague, Emily Salvi, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Okay, fantastic. And we're going to be handling the chat also with some of our ambassadors here, working the magic behind the scene. You're also welcome to say hi. And now I want to also introduce our amazing facilitator, Nikita Boston Fisher, who is a program administrator at McGill, and she has her own podcast, and she is also one of our ambassadors. We love her, and we hope you'll love her too. Now, I'll let you speak, Nikita.
Thank you, Nayo. Welcome everyone to PowerSkills 2021. I'm delighted to be your facilitator for this session today on Wayfinding, cracking your personal career code through reflection. We have two dynamic facilitators for today's workshop who happen to both be co-workers passionate about helping people reach their career goals. We have Ms. Jam Botmer, who is an experienced career advisor in the McGill University Career Planning Service, and Ms. Darlene Natchuk, who is the director of the McGill University Career Planning Service. Darlene and Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nikita and Nayo, and thanks to the CATS team for having us here today. We're both really excited about this workshop and had a lot of fun putting that together, and hope to transmit some of that energy to all of you here today. So without further ado, we'll move forward. I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year to all of you. It still feels relatively early on in the year, although in some cases I know many of us feel like some of these weeks are very long, and there's a lot going on for all of us. But it is it's a lovely time for this workshop because it's a naturally reflective time of year for many people as we start the new calendar year. And think about, where we've been and where we want to go, which is really the core of reflective practice. So we're really glad that all of you have made the time to be here with us today. Life is busy. There's a lot going on right now. That's probably a massive understatement for everyone. And so it's really great to see so many people have carved out the time to pause, to take stock, to reflect on where we are now and where you want to go, and the kind of changes or learning or different things you want to see happen this year in your work life, in your personal life, kind of in life more broadly. So thanks for being here with us today. We do like to start all of our workshops since we've switched to online with just a little quick check-in to see where everyone's at today. And Nayo nicely got us started in terms of where you're joining us from geographically. So I see a few people have already gone ahead and put that in the chat. Please go ahead and add that in. The accessibility with virtual and online workshops is fantastic, and we always love to see the diversity of geographic locations from where people are joining us from. I see lots of Montrealers, which is great. Welcome. Super snowy today, so we're probably all happy to be able to do this virtually. But as well as, I lost track of my continents. I saw at least 3 before everything started going very fast. So welcome to all of you wherever you're joining us from.
And while you're putting in where you're coming from, I also want to acknowledge the land that we find ourselves on at McGill University. And I'd like to ask you to think about where you are located. McGill University is located on land which has long served as a site of meeting exchange among Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. And we recognize and honor and respect the nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and the waters on which we meet today. Generally, we would do this acknowledgement in person, but as you are all over the place, I'm sure many of you will recognize and take a moment to think about the Indigenous peoples in your areas.
Thanks so much, Darlene. And yes, Darlene and I are both joining you today from Montreal. We'd also love to hear if you're comfortable sharing, and throughout the workshop, please do put any of this in the chat. It's really nice to get a sense of where everyone's at. But we'd love to hear from where you're coming from in more of a career sense, not just a geographic sense. This conference is wonderfully open to a huge diversity of people. So I'm wondering who we have in the audience today, if there are any students, maybe any recent graduates, maybe people approaching graduation and looking ahead to that. We probably have some career changers or people doing some ongoing professional and personal development. We'd love to just kind of hear where you're coming from in that more sort of emotional career sense. That would be fantastic. So it looks like some people, yeah, making some career changes and looking ahead to that. Some recent grads, fantastic. On maternity leave, looking to make a move, wonderful. And some career coaches and mentors, some fellow colleagues, welcome. Career changer and Cats fan, nice to see that. Okay, so a real mix of people pivoting, shifting, looking ahead to making changes, as well as maybe coming to the end naturally of what you've been doing right now if you're a current student looking ahead to graduation. Thank you so much. And like I said, please do keep those coming as we go through here. Last but definitely not least, way back in, I guess, April now, when we started putting all of our workshops and events at CAPS online, we came up with the idea of starting our workshops with small wins and sharing some of the small wins that have been keeping us going. Obviously, 2020 was all sorts of things for all of us. Certainly on my end, a roller coaster. I think I felt every emotion possible in the last year. And it certainly helped us to kind of think about some of the little things that were keeping us going, keeping our spirits up, maybe making us laugh or smile or, you know, have a bit more energy to keep going. So I'd love to see in the chat any small or of course any large wins that are really bringing a smile to your face or kind of doing it for you this week. On my end, I love the snow, so I'm actually really happy to see it. And probably that's easier to say since I'm able to give this presentation from the comfort of my basement and appreciate the snow in an aesthetic sense versus having to, you know, be commuting and maybe not feeling quite as appreciative there. I also, for myself, one of the things I love about the work that Darlene and I do is just that it's constant interaction and working with young people and students, which for my mind keeps me constantly inspired. And so I really appreciated on so many levels hearing Amanda Gorman yesterday with her inaugural poem. I've watched that probably too many times to count since then and kept having to remind myself that she's 22. So that kind of hope, that inspiration, the massive talents and energy that we see in lots of places, but I especially appreciate it in the demographic that I work with a lot. So that's been a big win and a small one for me this week. So let's see what else we've got in the chat coming through here. Darlene got her daughter to school on time. That is a massive win every day. That's a big one. NHL hockey is back. There's a lot of happy faces that I know of in Montreal on that front for sure. A few other people loved Amanda Gorman, people working on work-life balance, absolutely. A few other snow lovers, that's really nice to see. Yes, a lot of relief and hope on a few fronts, it seems. A few people getting a few things done this week, which is really nice to see attending this event. Thank you so much. That's a really lovely, lovely way to start. Again, keep those coming. It's really nice to see some of these things that we're all, you know, reflected on and appreciating this week. Okay, Darlene, I'll let you send off the workshop.
So we work in an office called career planning. And it's a bit of a misnomer sometimes we consider, because although we support our students and our alumni in our career development, you might assume, and sometimes they assume, that we're there to help you or students develop the perfect plan to the perfect job or career. And it's probably more accurate to say that we're involved in supporting career wayfinding. And you may be more familiar with the concept of wayfinding in terms of sea navigation or urban planning or indoor building signage. But it's also a great concept to apply to career development, because like in life, we're often not clear about what our career goal is or what path to take. And it's about finding our direction, even if we don't exactly know what our destination is going to be. And the first thing is to figure out where we are first. So maybe through the chat or thumbs up, how many of you are familiar with design thinking? How many of you heard about design thinking applied to career development or life design? So there are, and you're going to find it very interesting because I think there are a couple of other speakers over the next few days, the PowerSkills, who will be talking about the concept of designing your life or career planning and design thinking. And it's another way, a process to consider career development and very concrete steps that we're going to be able to take you through in order to help you figure out how to get the life that you want to be leading. And one of the first things that we're going to be talking about is reflection. So I want to share with you that at the end of this session, you're going to have access to all of the slides, and you'll also have access to our list of resources. And one of them is the Design Your Life website link to the resources. And that was a program. It's now a series of books and videos developed at Stanford by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. So you'll be able to check out those links and learn more at your leisure.
Thanks, Darlene. So we're seeing a mix in the chat of what people have heard of and not. So I'm just going to take a brief moment. Design thinking, just to sketch it out for those of you that maybe this is the first time you're hearing it, is literally the process used by actual designers, and if you can think of product designers, primarily when they're trying to develop or even come up with the idea of a new product. They start with really trying to empathize with their audience or their users, their product users. What do these people need? What kind of problem are they trying to solve? What's going on here? And then what designers do in terms of moving forward with a product is they build. They do what's called prototyping, which is literally trying it out, like making something. So if you think about any cool product that you can sort of see around you, I'm staring at my MacBook with its even extremely cool tracking pad. Like if you think of all of this, the first version of the MacBook, which I'm sure is, there's a museum or something somewhere, looked nothing like this, or certainly was not as smooth and slick and, well functioning as what we see now. So designers came up with a prototype. They built something. And then they test it. They see what works, what looked good, what was, smooth, what was easy, what was really not working well, and they build another prototype. And designers do, anything from hundreds to potentially thousands of prototypes before they come up with the, hopefully close to perfect or excellent version that then goes to market. But then it's also a process. Like, we have whatever Apple version, can't remember what my phone is, I'll date myself, maybe 8. This is ongoing. And a few years ago, these designers at Stanford that Darlene mentioned realized they were doing a lot of advising work with students, and they realized that a lot of the concepts that they knew as designers were actually very applicable to life, because design thinking is great in situations where you're dealing with messy, complex, interesting human problems, which is basically life: messy, complex, interesting, human, and constantly changing. So you can't be like, okay, I've got it, everything's set, because the variables in ourselves will change all the time. So as Darlene said, they apply these concept steps to life and life planning, and they call it Design Your Life. So the same ideas really quite naturally transfer over to the thinking around careers and what we want to do to move forward in our own lives. So again, it starts with a lot of sort of self-reflection, awareness of where you are now, and sort of what you're trying to solve, maybe what you're unhappy with or want to change or move forward, and then trying things out. Prototyping in a life design sense is really about experiential learning, talking to people, doing things, trying things, having an experience. We've all probably had jobs or opportunities in the past that are good stories, but we don't necessarily want to do any more of that. We learn from that and try to build our way forward quite literally. So that's just the really short version. And as Darlene said, you'll be getting some more information and resources, and there are actually some speakers later on in the PowerSkills conference that are going into it in a little more detail. It's super fun. We definitely recommend that you check all of that out. In terms of some of the key aspects that we wanted to pull on today, there are some key mindsets in wayfinding, career wayfinding, and design thinking that also apply really well to reflection and that sort of first starting point. So I just want to briefly go through those. We've got curiosity. And in really what this means here in terms of designing your life is not to assume that you have all the answers, which is a fairly easy one for me to sign up to. I think we're all aware that we're missing information and we need help on some of these things. But really having that attitude of openness, curiosity, excitement and interest in what might be out there versus sort of fear or worry. They go hand in hand sometimes, but trying to really cultivate that sense of curiosity and let's see what's possible. We've also got collaboration. we need each other. I think that's one of the things that certainly for me has been underlined over and over again throughout this past year. What do most of us miss? We miss seeing the people we love. We miss seeing people, period. I saw some people greeting each other the other day, and it just about made me cry for a variety of reasons, but we missed that connection. So we can't do this alone. And by this, I mean almost anything, but especially when we're talking about our lives, our careers, but also reflection. It helps to connect with others and bounce ideas off other people. Reflection might seem on paper, or at least sort of in our imagination, as sort of an inherently solitary activity, like you just sit there and think, right? And there's definitely those aspects, like you have some of the self-reflection and quiet time to sort of pause and think about things. But then you also want to share those ideas, what you've come up with, solicit feedback from people who know you well. So it's not, again, just you by yourself, sitting there and thinking. It's about that kind of connection and collaboration. Awareness, as Darlene said off the top, when reflection starts with sort of where are we now, and life design starts with that too. What's our current situation and how do we feel about that? What are we working with? What's going on? And what do we want to maybe change or move forward? So awareness is a big part of that. And then we have reframing. So in design thinking, this sort of involves, I guess, how we think about things. We could think of problems as like problems, like this is an issue, this is tough and tricky to work with. Or we could think of it more with that sense of curiosity and like, this is a challenge, this is interesting, how am I going to approach this? So really focusing on being brave, being creative, trying to shift our perspectives and see what insights and what changes we might see from that. And then last but not least, one of the things we as career advisors love about wayfinding and designing your life is really a bias towards action. And we'll see later on in the workshop just how reflection and action and planning really all go hand in hand together. Any one of them without the others, something's missing. And so the idea especially with design thinking is that you want to think, you want to reflect, you want to get all of these insights, but then at the end of the day, you also want to prototype, you want to try things, you want to sort of build your way forward. And again, that applies really directly to reflection. What's the point of reflection in terms of your life, being able to move forward, being able to take some actions that make sense for you. So these are the key mindsets that we're working with in our presentation and with how we approach reflection.
And so today we're going to take you through that most important aspect of wayfinding or design thinking to develop and harness those skills of reflection. And think of it this way as a way to get you started or maybe you restarted in your career journey. And you can come back to these questions, these techniques, whenever you need to or you want to. And so for this afternoon, Jan and I prepared a very practical session. We're going to get your reflective juices going in a safe environment. There's no judgment. We're going to do it in big group. We're going to do it in small groups. We're going to present those concepts and some questions in these different ways. And the idea is that you have good discussion and also that maybe you receive some encouragement.
Fantastic, thank you. So just in the chat to get us started, before I answer the question from our perspective, you're all here today, something about the workshop, grabbed you in this idea of reflection. So if you can just put in the chat really quickly, why do we reflect? What's the point? What are we trying to sort of accomplish or gain or, do with this? Why are we here? Any ideas? What comes to mind for all of you? To get better, to know how to move forward. Yeah, intentionality, fantastic word. Yeah, really appreciate that. We're talking about balance, tracking process, learning from the past. Huge one, yeah. Not to reinvent the wheel, absolutely. Let's use our energy in ways that make sense and actually move us forward. Oh, you guys are awesome. It's going too fast, but these are all great. Increasing self-awareness, realization.
I saw someone mention to get unstuck.
Yes.
And that's a concept that you hear a lot about in designing your life, design thinking.
Absolutely. How can we get unstuck, create action out of reflection, be wiser, get in touch with what we need? Amazing. Yeah, and unstuck, I agree. We can kind of underline that metaphorically. Thank you guys. Keep those coming. A few of the sort of key ones that we really wanted to highlight, you've mentioned many of these. So absolutely that sense of awareness. Where are we now? Let's pause, let's take stock. What's the situation and what do we want to do about it? And as you mentioned off the top, many of us are here because maybe career changers, professional development, thinking about graduation. So it's like, where are we now? And now how do we move forward? You hear a lot about process in design thinking, in wayfinding, in career planning. It's really all about, that journey and about learning from it. A few people mentioned, not reinventing the wheel, learning from past experiences to be able to apply that. Absolutely. So that self-discovery and that learning piece as part of the process are probably two of the biggest reasons to be doing this, so that we aren't sort of condemned to just do the same things over and over again. I saw the word intentionality come up in the chat, fantastic one. Really thinking about thinking and then ideally acting with intention, so that we're not just sort of in a reactive mode, responding or feeling like we're sort of fighting fires. That gets really stressful and really exhausting over time. We sort of can feel like we're flailing or just sort of not really doing what we want to with our lives. So that sense of intentionality, really approaching our actions and what we do next in our careers and our life with that core sense of knowing why we're doing things and not just being constantly stuck in doing mode. And then that naturally leads into sort of goal setting and determining next steps. These are intimately connected together. We want to be able to think about the action we want to take. And again, that intentionality, that positivity, that focus of what we want to do really stems from reflection. And last but not least, it's also really helpful when you know yourself and you're kind of clear on what you've learned from past things and what you want to change in the future. That gives you a lot of confidence going forward to be able to articulate those insights to others, which is a huge aspect in the job search process, in career planning, be it literally in an interview, trying to articulate what you're about and what your strengths are, or in more subtle ways throughout that process. Having that confidence that stems from the reflection is really, really positive. Okay, and this little graphic, for those of you maybe who are a bit more visual, to me really nicely encapsulates what we're trying to do here. You've got reflection, you've got action, you've got planning, and any one of those things sort of isolated, there's something missing. If you're only reflecting, that leads to often feeling a bit stuck because you're not moving, you're not actually, have that forward motion. But conversely, if you're only doing, we get that feeling of sort of just being in reactive mode and kind of constantly going without any sense of why, or even if we want to be doing these things. And again, with planning, if you're only planning without the doing and the reflecting, it's a bit hollow. So an intimately connected process here is what we're talking about. Okay. So for our next, we're going to jump right in just now. And for all of these there were so many questions we wanted to share with you guys. So we narrowed it down to some of our favorites. And as we said, we will in the end share many of them with you so that you can build on them yourselves. It really does help throughout this to write this stuff down. Many of you I can already see or plan this out well. But if you don't already have, paper or a pencil, something like that, that's my preference, but obviously you can do it on your tablets or computers or things as well. Please do that so you're able to note, doodle, make connections throughout this process and have that for yourself following the workshop. So let's dive in. For our first exercise, we're going to go way back, maybe less way back for some of you than for me, but quite a way back. I want you to think all the way back to when you were a child and what you wanted to be. The goals, the dreams, more the ideas, the inspiration that you had the first time you could remember kind of answering or being asked that question. So I want you to think about that and to write down what comes to mind. You might have been 3, 4, 5, 6. We tend to be fairly concrete and present focused at that age. So maybe you wanted to be a fairy or a superhero. I've heard butterfly. That's one of my favorite answers with this one. Maybe you want to drive a garbage truck. That's my 3-year-old nephew's current be all and end all goal in life, is to be that person. It's really the only thing he wants to do. Maybe you want to be a firefighter or a fire truck. I've heard that as well. That really seems pretty good, to be honest. Maybe you want to be a scientist, change the world, pour cool things together and make smoke come up and, freak out your parents. That sounds pretty great. Dancer, athlete of some sort, on TV, wearing the fun uniforms, getting to play, maybe an astronaut or something else entirely. So take a moment and just jot down for yourself your first answer that you remember. And if you're able to share that in the chat with us, that'd be fantastic. It just always brings everyone a bit of a smile to see where we started out. Full disclosure, I wanted to be a ballerina, which is hilarious in hindsight. My ballet career lasted approximately 6 months and mostly consisted of, running in place on a stage in a tutu. It was not particularly exemplary, shall we say, but that was the first idea that I had. So let's take a look at what you guys wanted to be. Yeah, we got some astronauts, awesome detective, nice one. Car salesman, artist and photographer. I'm not a dancer either, thank you for the empathy there. I'm still a dancer and just not necessarily that accomplished, shall we say. Oh, race car driver, definitely seen some of those. Sherlock Holmes, absolutely. Scientist, hooray. Lots of different ideas. Singer, midwife, ooh, well done. I wanted to make soup, I love that. Soup is such, if we can think of like a good wholesome thing in the world, soup might be it. That's beautiful. Got some fellow ballerinas keeping me company. No idea, mechanic, rugby player, awesome. Thank you guys so much. So jot that down at one end of your paper. And then if you can think about your current situation for a moment. For many of you, you might be in a situation which fits well for you in terms of what you want out of your life and your career. And if that's the case, jot down, your current role, your current situation. Others of you, as we mentioned, may be thinking about, I'm looking to shift. So if you have an idea about what you would like to be or the direction you would like to go next, and if you're able to sort of articulate that, go ahead and write that down as well. And some of you might just have a big question mark, which is totally fine as well. Don't feel pressured to, make something up if you're not quite there yet. And so now what I'd like you to do, you've got your sort of 3 to 6-year-old self at one end, your current self at the other. Just take a minute or two and fill in the space in between. So I'd like you to think about the different ideas that you had at different points in your life, anything that was around and in your mind for more than, sort of a brief minute or so. Some of you might have a handful of things that you wanted to be over time. Some of you might have quite a long list, up to 20 different things, maybe more. You might have some repeats, that's all fine, but just take a moment and kind of work your way forward from your childhood self up to now, jotting down any of the sort of careers and job titles and ideas that you had along the way. So I'll just give you a moment to do that. And this part's for yourself. So just jot it down on your paper or whatever makes sense in front of you there. Naya, Nikita, you're welcome to do this too. This one's fun. Once you've had a chance to write that down, it'll take different amounts of time for each of you. I've seen, people with 3 or 4 things on their list, people with, upwards of 20 or more. Wherever you're at in that range is completely fine. But I'd like you just in the chat to drop a quick note about your reaction when you look at your list of the sort of dreams and ideas that you've had over time. Appreciating the dreams and ideas, fantastic. That's great. Some of you feeling like you look at this list and you want to get a move on. There's lots of interesting things to do in the world. Fantastic. Okay, so some people are seeing themes, but also then some occasional outliers. Yeah. Job titles are different, but I see alignment of key skills and competencies. Fantastic. And that's actually where we're going to go next. Because when we look at these lists, sometimes on the very first glance, it can feel a little bit maybe scattered or sort of all over the place. There's all these titles kind of thrown on the page. And it's interesting because in the way we as a society and people talk about careers, often even just the way we ask questions, it's really focused on the job title. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you do? What's your job? And obviously the title is an important part of this, but it really is only one aspect of of a career. And there's thousands, hundreds of titles, and they change and they're different in different places. So it can be a bit of a moving target as well. So when you look at this list, you see the titles, definitely, but I want you to take a moment. There might already be some themes or some connections that you see, and there might be things that have come back over time that keep repeating, dreams that keep kind of popping up in your head about what you'd like to do. I'm just going to really briefly put up my list here. As I mentioned, we started with the ballerina idea, which changed pretty quickly. So I set my aspirations a little lower and decided I would be an Olympic gymnast, which is also hilarious because I still can't really touch my toes, but that's a whole other story. They looked really cool and I wanted to be able to bounce in the air. I was also the kind of kid who school was really designed for. I would come home and give my dolls homework. So I was going to be a teacher. That was the next idea here. I've been a musician my whole life, so that one popped up a few times. Olympic figure skater. I moved to Canada, changed my Olympic aspirations to something a little bit more winter focused. Teacher came back a few times for me throughout my life. Writer started to be something prominent. I'm now in high school at this point and deciding between being a musician or a scientist, a doctor in particular. At university, I love the environment, decided I want to stay here. I'm going to be a university prof. Then I realized you had to do research, and that kind of changed. I considered a few things after graduation: audiology. I lived overseas for a while and wanted to be a travel writer and just keep going. Started to wonder about psychology, and now I'm a career counselor in music and arts, I might add, primarily. So when you look at this list, there's definitely a few things, kind of really overtly. But just quickly in the chat, what do you see beneath the titles? We've got the actual job roles, but what kind of threads or themes or connections, consistencies can you see here? Am I pretty random, or do I have some? I have some skills. Awesome. Thank you, Char. So someone sees sharing. Okay, awesome. Creativity, entrepreneurial fun. Thank you. This is very good for my ego here. Teaching, helping people, flexibility, despite the lack of touching the toes. Yeah. Communication. Awesome. Well done, you guys. Yeah, this is a really good list so far. Some of these are on my list. In terms of kind of subject areas, things like music, science, and psychology have been a long-running theme for me that are still around. We've got connection. A few people mentioned this. This is super important for me. And communication. I really like words. I'm like the resident office word nerd, both written down and, thank you, Darlene, for nodding, both written down and more directly in terms of the verbal side here. Yeah, language communication. One thing that really hit me the first time I did this activity was the performance side, because the ballerina and the gymnast and the figure skater, on first glance, to me look a bit like outliers. But what the core that I really loved about them was the performance side, connecting with people on a medium to world size staged, apparently, when I was younger. And that sense of connection and performance with a group is still incredibly important to me, and something that I love about this work. People helping, really concrete, direct helping, actually, for me. I'm not a researcher, I'm not a theoretical person. I appreciate it, but it's not my particular strength. Also, another thing that jumped out to me was professions and sort of the education and training. I'm quite comfortable with a lot of education and training, and like to do that and value that. So those are some of the things that came up for me, as well as that sort of educating and teaching component. I'm not a teacher per se right now, but it's a huge part of the job and something that I love. So it's kind of neat to look at these two different lists, because sometimes when people are changing careers or are about to graduate, looking at just different possibilities, it can on the surface feel like we're a bit all over the place, or kind of don't have a focus or a goal. But often, if we look even just a little bit below the surface, there are lots of common threads and themes that have actually been, in some cases, remarkably consistent throughout our lives. So some of you already started to jot down in the chat some of the things that you saw in your own lists there. So take another moment and just look back at your own titles. You can think about subjects and interests. Absolutely, there might be some common threads there for you. You can also think about some of the skills that you've been demonstrating or interested in underlying all of these roles. But often what really comes through pretty clearly with regards to our sort of personal career themes are our values and our personality, how we do things and the things that we actually think matter in the first place. So take a moment and try and jot down for yourself just some of the themes or connections that you see in your own lists there. You're welcome to share any you like in the chat, but this is also can be just for you if you prefer. Mixing, creating, teaching, sharing. Lovely list. Intercultural connections. Huge for Lori. Fantastic. And you might see themes in the, and like a few of you have kind of indicated, some of them might be more important than others for you. There might be a theme, but it's not, one that you're super invested in, whereas there's others that you think, yes, that's me, that's core. That's kind of essential to who I am. Hands-on, fantastic. So one of the things we do in our work with students is kind of look at both of these lists. And in a sense, the one on the right is it's a different version of the first one, but it's almost like your own personal career code, your own personal kind of career rubric. And it can be both very reassuring in the sense that we're not as random as we think, or not that we have sort of maybe more focus or consistency than we give ourselves credit for, and also more to draw on in that way. But it also allows us to kind of, when we're thinking about future options and next steps, to kind of compare them to this list, and is there the potential in some of the things we're considering to tap into some of these important themes or important commonalities that we've seen with ourselves over time. Will this job give me the opportunity to be creative, to connect with others, to use language and work with people, kind of asking yourself those questions and looking a bit beyond the actual titles that you're looking at as well. So I'm going to move on there. I would say as well, though, just a couple of things. We mentioned collaboration being one of the key mindsets, even with reflection. So you want to look at your list yourself and kind of jot down what you see and the things that jump out to you. But it's also really fun to share this with people who know you well, or even maybe who don't, and kind of see what they, from the outside, what connections that they see. You might be surprised at some of the things that they immediately pick up on that you hadn't even maybe given yourself credit for or realized are interesting there. So really, I do encourage you to share this a little bit with others if you're comfortable and get some of that feedback. It can be a really positive and interesting exercise. Darlene, I'll turn it over to you for the next question.
Thanks, Jen. So the next question, or series of questions we're going to throw your way, is around your work view. How do you view work? What does that mean to you? So again, jot down your thoughts as I go through a couple of questions. Feel free to share that also in the chat, that which you feel comfortable with. Remember, there are no wrong answers. So what does work mean to you? What does career or life success look like for you? Is it about money? Is it about standard of living? Is it about stability? Is it about safety, providing for yourself, for your family? Is it service to others? Is it making a contribution? Is it growing, learning, building skills, developing your talents? How does it relate to you as the individual, to others, to society? Mm-hmm. What is work for? What defines good or worthwhile work? So we're starting to see some responses, and it's important because you're going to be gathering information from the different types of reflections and questions that we're asking, and then putting it all together. So for some people, it's stability, comfort, and happiness. It has different roles depending probably on the type of work that you've been involved in. It fulfills different roles or areas of your life. Happiness, I see satisfaction, purpose. And, you can have different types of jobs. And it was interesting what Jen was talking about earlier. Sometimes it's the job title and what it means for you are different things. I remember speaking with one student who had a job in customer service. It was in retail. And I said, well, what does that work mean to you? And it wasn't just about, fast food service or serving the clients as quickly as possible. They strongly felt that their purpose was serving others, helping others find what it is that they needed. So it wasn't just about sales. It was about helping others. So making that distinction too in your understanding of what it is that you're getting out of the work. Let's see, people are sharing that they've had similar experiences as well. Being valued and adding value. To be recognized and recognizing others. Freedom and flexibility. Community. Financial security. Freedom. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. We're going to move on now to the next question.
Thanks, Darlene. And thank you all for sharing your experiences in the chat. It's really wonderful to see all of that. We appreciate it very much. In terms of this past year. Like I said it off the top, it's a very reflective time of year, kind of naturally speaking, and even, you know, all of the think pieces and look backs on 2020 and all sorts of media and areas. And so we wanted to kind of acknowledge that. And Naya, we're going to stick with this one in the big group, I think, because of time, and then we'll do the breakout room after, just to give you a quick heads up. So first, just question in the chat, what's sort of your gut reaction when you think about the past year? Because there's such a diversity of experiences, an unevenness of experiences that's come out of the situation many of us have found ourselves in. With COVID-19 and the resulting changes to how we live and work. So for you personally, and you're, like I said, welcome to share this if you like, has, first of all, the experience this past year that you've had changed your perspective on your education or your career? For some of you might not have, for others it might have in a really big way. So just take a moment and ask yourself if you think it's had a big impact or not, and you're welcome to share that in the chat for a moment. And if you do think it's changed things for you, then the really interesting question becomes sort of how, because again, the impacts and the experiences are really quite diverse. So how have things changed for you? What's maybe been the impact, or what has shifted for you? So it sounds like a few people are saying, yes, it has been a big change. For others, maybe previous big changes have already happened in their lives that were more impactful. Someone's speaking about moving to Canada, and that was maybe a bigger change or a more impactful one for them. Others talking about, rethinking their values, spending more time at work, or maybe working in different ways. And other people are mentioning, there's definitely some confusion and some real challenges in the world of work, depending on your industry. Some industries, as we've seen, have been just through the roof. They're so busy they, can hardly keep up, or can't keep up almost, whereas others have really quite almost don't exist, certainly in the current form that we were used to a year ago. So depending on the field you're in, that impact could be almost negligible or dramatic in several directions. So we're seeing some of that being reported here as well. Few people have said, need to rethink the next few years, or we're really seeing that sense of shift and of pivoting. And I think some of the themes of this conference really tap into that sort of resilience that we're seeing demonstrated, but also the sense many people have of like, oh, okay, we're going to now go this way a little bit because, wow, that made a really big difference for me. People talking about sort of asking more questions about life and what they want to do. And I know definitely for myself, it's put things in perspective in terms of sort of what really is important and what at the end of the day, I kind of have to hold on to and really appreciate about the work I do, and also, different things in my life as well. A few people are talking about, personal improvement, time to do some learning and not put off maybe some of the things that they were interested in diving into. And there's also, it might be sort of maybe some more challenging impacts, feeling more hesitant, more anxious, more concerned about, how this is all going to go. And that's a really valid idea as well.
I think it's important also to acknowledge that whether you have personally experienced challenging or difficult changes, or even positive ones, just the fact that you've experienced changes is something that sometimes takes time and space to adapt to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Darlene. That's true. That kind of early on, we saw there was some interesting articles I saw about just really the grieving process, that being able to take the time and space to sort of mourn in many cases what so many of us lost in the spring, and what changed in many ways. And so all of this takes time to get used to. And in many ways we are used to things now, but still doesn't mean that they're not strange or kind of uncomfortable or interesting in this regard. So a lot of people are sharing some really interesting aspects here, some thinking more about personal improvement and moving forward, others really in survival mode, like trying to really just kind of get through this and do the best that they can in their situation there. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I know for myself, a few things really jumped out in terms of pace. I saw a real difference in terms of sort of the flow of, I've got a young family, sort of our family life, and how much we were doing and in what how quickly, and the slower pace was something I really appreciated, as well as the presence. I was doing less, but sort of in many ways forced to be there quite literally for that. as well as the flexibility, and in some ways the focus. When we are in a bit more of survival mode, or certainly feeling that, things do kind of narrow in some ways for many of us. And then a big thing that's come up for me many, many times, or just being reminded over and over again of the importance, is just the compassion, like really feeling. I have different reactions sometimes to things that used to bother me. If someone's late or I haven't heard from them, sometimes it used to be a bit of annoyance, or sort of like, oh, what's going on? And now my first thought is, are they okay? Or like, what's happening? And I hope things are going well. So it's been a really interesting mix, grateful but exhausted. Adriana, that's really encapsulates, certainly for me, very well what's been going on here. So thinking about all of this and some of the other things we've talked about today, we spoke about at the beginning how reflection is intimately tied to planning and action, and how that's this very sort of circular and continuous process there. So we want to just focus for the next little bit on next steps, and kind of how thinking about what the experience that you've had over the past year and some of the different things that have been going on for you, how has that maybe changed or sharpened your focus and perspective on next steps? So Naya, we would like to do a quick breakout room with this one, just so everyone gets a chance to meet a few different people and share briefly. And of course, share in the way that you're comfortable. If you prefer to do it through the chat or turn your video on, have a little conversation, whatever makes most sense. So overall, we really wanted to ask you about how has your experience really sharpened or changed what you'd like to do next? What has come into focus for you, or kind of, gained increased in importance? And some of the things that you might want to think about are, particular aspects of your work or experience that you'd like to do more or less of, where your energy's been coming from. Energy is a bit more in short supply these days. So thinking about those issues, if you can take a few minutes and chat about some of those with your group, and we'll put it in the message as well in case you didn't get to hear all of those points. Thanks, Naya.
Exactly, and please join the waiting room so you don't leave your colleagues there waiting. Take advantage to talk between each other.
Naya, are you able to just basically put the last question in sort of a blast to all of the groups in case they didn't all hear it?
Yeah, for sure. I can broadcast a message. It's
Perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty limited. So what have you done recently that gave you energy?
Just mostly put sort of, next steps, how have your experiences impacted what you want to do next?
I'll broadcast it again in a minute while people are jumping in. 35 people missing to jump in. Not sure what happened to the room. Root, if you feel free, you can speak up. Let me just tell you which room you were. Root.
It was. I don't know which number it was.
Okay, let me
sorry, I don't recall. It might have been 17 or 18. I don't recall. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Okay, yeah, you were at the end. You're in room 14, so.
Okay.
So do you want me to send you the link again because you click canceled, or?
Well, I saw people kind of exiting, and then I was like the last one. I don't know.
Okay, well, people are here now. If you want to jump back in.
Sure. Thank you.
13. Fantastic.
So depending on people's bandwidth, sometimes it takes them a while to get. So I think 7-8 minutes would be good, just because we're
exactly. I'm
at
just
this point closer to 7.
Okay, yeah, things are going fast.
It does. An hour goes by fast.
I'm gonna move.
A big group.
Yeah, I'm gonna move people who are in rooms a little bit more empty.
Max, do you have your hand up? No, it's just a thumbs up wave. Okay.
Great, and I haven't seen you guys in action, but wow, impressive presentation, amazing. Thank you so much. Couldn't really join a lot of the participation because the chat and the emails are quite demanding.
We
Ask
appreciate
for
you
help.
taking care of that.
Thank
It's
you.
hard to do both as a presenter, so it's very nice to know that that's in good hands. As you've seen from my list, I'm happier to be doing the chatting in front of people than to be dealing with the behind the scenes logistics. So
Yes, me too. I love to talk, but I'll jump into Anna Gagliardi is asking for help in room 1. So I guess you would be asking a little bit about what they're doing. I guess it's to be talking about the question.
Yeah, sharing their answers.
Okay, perfect. I'll just go and explain. Sorry, Leah. Let me just see which room you were in. Number 9. Abdul, 13.
if any of you are more comfortable here, you're also welcome to talk to us or to put it in the chat or just to take a breather,
Yes.
you know, whatever you kind of need at this point.
Yes, exactly.
Action on demand can be challenging.
Can sometimes be awkward. Sometimes when you're waiting for all the people in the breakout rooms and you're alone here.
Yeah, it's great technology, but it's there's some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if we can have everyone back like at 3:25.
Yeah, 3:25. That leaves 3 minutes. A little less than 3 minutes.
Yeah. Just so that we can end on time.
Yeah. And Max, yes, you should have got an invitation. At this point, you're welcome to, you know, take a breather or to join a room quickly if Naya is able to organize that. Or you can just think for yourself, you know, we can have it be an individual exercise at this point in terms of, you know, next steps and things that you're wondering about.
Now all waiting rooms are in groups, so no one is alone anymore.
That's good. It's always sad to be the one person in the room and you're thinking, what happened? Where did everyone?
Yeah. Okay,
Darlene, are you answering Leah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Small question, yeah.
Or Leah, I hope I'm pronouncing that okay.
Yeah. Also, let me know if I share any of your LinkedIn accounts or maybe the CAPS email or whatever resource you want us to share at the end, or we can link it directly.
I think just either the website and the slides, that would be best.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I guess it's like Kat say, it's caps@mcgill.ca.
McGill.ca/caps.
Okay.
So our website, I'll just put in the link.
Fantastic. No, I got it here. Just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
I wrote it by knowing how McGill does things. You can expect how the website would be called.
Exactly. So Naya, if you can give them the 1 minute warning, or we usually get 60 seconds to close it. So probably do that now, just for sake of time.
36. Yeah. So here, broadcast message.
Can I ask a question in the interim?
Yes.
You offer this kind of service if we reach out to your department for more in-depth career analysis? Or
you would have to be a student at McGill or a recent graduate.
Okay.
But we can definitely refer you to other publicly funded services and in private practice as well.
Okay, that sounds great. Would I do that to one of your emails or just the general CATS email kind of thing?
You can send it to careers.caps@mcgill.ca.
Okay, thank
Just-
you.
Just reference this workshop so that
We know.
we know where the question's coming from, and we'll remember that.
Great, thank you.
And our website's in the chat.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, so is everyone coming back? I'm just trying to.
Yeah, they
Okay.
should be back in 30 seconds. All breakout rooms will be closed.
Arlene, I can wrap up, but jump in obviously at any.
Perfect.
Crazy how time flies.
I know it's always a good sign, but I always want more time. But at the same time, an hour online is a lot. So
I'm on the same chair since 7:30. I didn't realize the time. It's already 3:30. Time goes fast when it's fun. Okay, everyone is out of the breakout rooms.
okay, so welcome back, everyone. So depending on the technology, it sounds like some of you got some individual reflection time, and then some of you got to have some group time. So I hope whichever option ended up happening there, that you had a moment to sort of think a little bit about next steps. And we've obviously speeded up this reflection process to fit within an hour, which has its limitations. Of course, many people take more time and want more time, and our idea, as Darlene said off the top, was to really give you some of the tools and ideas to then be able to dive into them more in a bit of depth yourselves, depending on what stage and what point you're at in your career and your life and the goals that you're considering at this point. But I would like to just take a moment and based on what you maybe talked about in your group or had a chance to think about on your own, based on sort of seeing some of your lifelong or whole lifelong dreams on paper early on, and some of the things we've talked about here, what's one thing, and if you can put this in the chat, that'd be fantastic. What's one thing that you can commit to doing in the next week or the next month? Depends a bit on your own time frame and what you're working with in terms of other demands on your time at the moment. What's one thing you can commit to doing in the next week or month based on the reflection we've talked about today to build and move your career and your own personal development forward? What's something that's sort of come up for you, or an idea that's maybe solidified or been nice to see on paper as you've gone through this? So just take a moment and put that in the chat. Get some time for myself, fair enough. Really, really important. Right, awesome. A couple people getting back to writing, that's exciting. Looking forward to seeing that. A few people have got some specific goals, like certification exams, or a few people mentioned specific educational goals earlier on. Take a risk, nice. It's a good summary. That sort of bravery, be creative, be brave, try and build that forward. Not procrastinate, absolutely. Post CV, read more, fantastic. I can sign up to that one. I saw someone mentioned, reaching out to networks, reaching out to other people, maybe thinking about some conversations that you can have, people that be interesting to speak with, maybe sharing your list or some of these ideas with others who know you well, or who maybe have just a very different perspective to see what they think. A daily blog, fun. These are some interesting ideas here, guys, fantastic. Volunteer, creative personal projects, more personal connections. Amazing, thank you so much, keep those going. And like we said at the top, we really, there's so many questions that we love asking. And I mean, a big part of the role of career advisors and counselors and career educators is to ask good questions and really try to stimulate people's thinking and reflection. So at the risk of, it's a very full slide, but it's some of our favorites, and we did narrow it down, believe it or not. We wanted to share, and this of course will be in the slides, so you'll receive this after, so you'll have this whole list for yourself. Sort of some of our favorite really fruitful reflection questions. And you can also, of course, pick and choose which ones make sense for you, depending where you're at in your career. The ones on the left are kind of a bit more broad in the sense that they can be applied to, wherever you're at. Whereas on the right, we have questions that are sometimes interesting to ask when you have a specific experience in mind. Often when we're talking about career, maybe your current work or your previous work or previous experience that you really enjoyed, or even sometimes maybe one you didn't. Sometimes that's easier to, articulate, to really try and drill down for yourself, what are the aspects that you want to keep or do more of, and maybe what are some of the things that might be causing your desire to have a bit of a change or to do something different, and have put that in focus. So we will be, of course, sharing that with you. You'll all get those slides after and can kind of, continue to build and springboard on that as you go through. So thank you. And these are some of our favorite resources because we can't help ourselves. So do check those out. You're very welcome to do that. And really, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. This was a lot of fun for us to put together. And it's always a treat to talk about some of these favorite subjects and spend some time, thinking about these with a really good engaged group. And so we appreciate your energy and your engagement and your contributions. And hopefully you've had some food for thought, quite literally, throughout this workshop.
I'd like to also thank the CATS team for putting together this wonderful virtual conference, the second edition, and for giving us the opportunity to share what we're passionate about and to connect with all of you today. So thank you.
And just to reiterate for a few people in the chat, maybe who missed it at the top, the slides will be shared as a PDF following the workshop either later today or tomorrow morning. So you will get all of the links and everything here for your own use there.
Yeah, fantastic. And I don't know if Nikita wants to maybe wrap this up. I'll be sharing a few links. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Darlene and Jan, for this wonderfully reflective session. There's so many thank you messages coming in on the chat. You really gave us some fantastic questions to think about in our downtime. Some people were asking how they can get in contact with you. Is that an option? If so, can you put that information in the chat, please? But other than that, for the participants, thank you so much for coming. Please keep an eye on your emails because we'll be sending a survey at the end so that you can tell us what you thought about this session. There are a few more PowerSkills sessions this evening, and then we still have 2 full days left of this amazing event. And if you're enjoying PowerSkills and you want to contribute to the School of Continuing Studies so that they can continue to put on more amazing events and to help the CATS team give us more encouragement, then please consider donating. And Nayo is going to put the link in the chat for the School of Continuing Studies donation page. So thank you again to Darlene and Jan, and thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you build more courage throughout the PowerSkills sessions.
Thank you so much, everyone. Wishing you a wonderful, active, and reflective rest of January and a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to do this again soon.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful rest of the evening.
You too.
Stopping the recording. We can now